Okay, we're back with our second video in the series of videos I'm doing for brand new powerlifters. Before I really get into that though, I'd kind of like to tell you a little bit about myself. After I did the first video, I thought, people's going to wonder who the heck is this old guy and why should we listen to anything he's got to say. So I figure I'll just briefly tell you a little bit about myself and my qualifications before we get into what I mean by equipped raw lifting. My name's Tony Kinnaman. I'm the head coach and head trainer at Southern High Powerlifting at Heart of Lion Strength and Conditioning. I'm NASM certified personal trainer. I'm a competitive powerlifter, a referee, and a meet director with USA Powerlifting. I've got multiple records in the state of Ohio with the USAPL, and I've done multiple meets. And I remember back my first meet, there's a lot of information out on the internet you can look up and read to find out about the different federations and see which ones are right good fit for you and what their rules and expectations are. But I feel like it's just easier to do a video and talk to people, or somebody sends me a message, whatever, just to talk to them and explain things, because I know a lot of people aren't real keen on sitting down and reading page after page after page of information, and it all starts running together after a while. So I figured these videos would be something nice to do for people. And I want to cover some things that would have been really nice that somebody would have told me ahead of time, that I may have missed while I was researching the different federations before I decided on the one that I'm with. So here we go. And I'm going to try to keep this brief, by the way. I kind of tend to run on a little bit when I'm talking, but I'm going to try to keep this brief and to the point. What I mean by equipped raw lifting. Raw lifting in its purest form is just you, the barbell, and the weights. That's great. If you train that way, that's wonderful. However, there are certain pieces of equipment that a raw lifter is allowed to use and still be considered raw, and they will help your performance on the platform. It's good to practice with them in training, but it's really important to know what you can use and use it properly on the platform. I'm not going to go into how you use the different pieces of equipment so much today, because that'll take forever. I just want to go over the pieces that you're allowed to use today as a raw lifter, at least in my federation. Again, different federations will have different rules, and even go as far as, certain companies that make the equipment that you can use and can't use on the platforms. We're lucky enough with our federation that at the local meet level, you're not at regionals, you're not at nationals, as long as a piece of equipment meets or is the same specifications as an approved company, you're allowed to use it. So here we go. Without further ado, first piece of equipment I'd like to talk about is that you're allowed to use is a belt. I prefer to use, I'm not going to go over brands and all that. I'm using for this video for demonstration purposes only the equipment that I like to use, because I've got it right here and I can just pick up a piece, talk about it, and go on. Anyway, the first one's a belt. I like a 13 millimeter belt. 13 millimeters this way. It just seems like it's a little stiffer than a 10. And I think in our federation, the thinnest belt you're allowed to use is a 10 millimeter anyway, and the thickest is a 13. And when you're picking your equipment for your federation, whatever the biggest piece you're allowed to use is, I would probably use it unless you just absolutely positively don't like a belt this thick. If you don't want it that stiff, then go with the 10 millimeter. I also prefer to use a 4-inch belt, 4 inches here to here. I'm tall enough, it doesn't dig into my ribs when I'm squatting, doesn't dig into me when I'm deadlifting. Shorter lifters or lifters with shorter torsos may want to go with a 3-inch. A lot of federations will allow you to use a 3-inch belt. They're a little harder to find, but you need to be comfortable on the platform. And it's also good to have your belt really tight when you're on the platform. That's another reason why I like to use a lever belt. Again, most federations are going to let you use a lever belt or a prong belt, either one. The reason I like a lever belt, you hook it around your waist. When it's time to lift, you reach over and grab this lever, pop it over, tightens up on you real good. You can get it as tight as you can stand. Do your lift, come off the platform. You don't have to fight up against a combo rack or up against a power rack to try to get it unhooked again so you can breathe better. You just flip the lever, leave it around your waist. It's comfortable. And then when you get ready for your next lift, walk out, snap your belt again. Simple. And I like simple. You're also allowed to use prong belts, which all a prong belt is just the belt you're used to seeing in most gyms around. Gyms will have these that you can use. Again, I like the 13 millimeter, 4-inch thickness. Now you hear a chain rattling around on here. You can't use this on the platform. This particular belt I use to do weighted dips with. That's why I've got this attachment on here. And again, and you can have a single prong like this or double prong, either one. Most federations don't care. And they're great. Only thing I don't like about them is if you want to get it really tight, you either have to have a tool to tighten it with, or have somebody help you, or get up against a piece of equipment to get it tightened, which is taking time during your rest period in between lifts. Because with our federation, you get 1 minute from the time they call the bar loaded for you to get out and get the start command, squat command, you depend on the lift you're doing. And if you're fiddling around with this prong belt, that's eating up valuable seconds that you have to get set up and get comfortable with the bar before you perform your lift. But some guys really, really like these. A lot of the old school guys love them, and it's great. So whatever you want to use, just lever or prong, doesn't really matter. It's whatever you're comfortable with, because you want to be comfortable on the platform when you're dealing with maximum weights. Next piece I'd like to talk about is knee sleeves. As a raw lifter, you are allowed to use knee sleeves. You're not allowed to use knee wraps. You're allowed to use knee sleeves. And I've got these turned inside out because, again, we're not talking about brands today. If anybody's interested in what brands I prefer and why, send me a DM me, put something in the comments, and we can talk about it then, but that's not what this is for. And again, with your knee sleeves, with our federation anyway, they're allowed to be 7 millimeters thick. And again, that's the most thickness you can have. With the knee sleeve, why not go with the most thickness you can have? And you have to be able to put them on yourself. You can't put a slipper on like some of the equipped guys. They have slippers to get into their suits, slippers to get into their bench shirts. You have to be able to put these on without any help. So if you're one of the people that's thinking about maybe going down a size from what you actually wear for a competition, which is perfectly legal, make sure you can put them on by yourself. And maybe one of these days I'll do a video showing you how to put on ridiculously tight knee sleeves by yourself, because there's a couple of different ways to put them on that makes it easy, or makes it a lot easier to get them on, and then you don't have to worry about a technical controller seeing you using a trash bag or a sock or something to get them on and saying, oh, you can't wear those on the platform. Next thing, if I can remember where I put them down, wrist wraps. The wrist wraps, use these for the bench. I like to use them for bench and squat. And again, brands don't matter. I wear a 36-inch, which is basically a meter, just under a meter, wrist wrap, because that's the maximum allowable length for a wrist wrap in my federation. As you're putting them on, you make each wrap tighter and tighter. The more wraps you can make, the better of a casting job you can do on your wrists, the more stable your wrist is going to be. The more stable your wrist is, the less energy leaks you're going to have on the bench. I just use them on the squat to help keep my wrist straight, to keep from putting undue pressure on my wrist joint and on my elbows, for more for comfort than anything else, and a little bit of injury prevention, because there's nothing like making your elbows really, really, really sore squatting and then having to turn right around on the bench and being expected to perform as well as you can. And all this equipment that we went over that you're allowed to use as a raw lifter will help your lifts. The belt will allow you to get tighter and brace more efficiently, so you can move the weight and move more weight better than you can with nothing. The knee sleeves are going to help keep your joints warm. They're going to put compression on your knees, and they're going to protect your knees from injury. And some of them, if you go a little bit, like if you go a size down, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, they'll give you a little bit of pop coming up out of the hole for on your squats, and you can move a little bit more weight that way. There's companies that make stiff knee sleeves that are legal in my federation. Give you a little bit more oomph out of the hole. You can move a little bit more weight. How much more, I'm not really sure. I've never really AB'd regular knee wraps versus the stiff kind, and I don't size down, so I don't really know how much that helps personally. But these are things you can do as a raw lifter and still be considered raw, even though you're wearing equipment. And again, with the wrist wraps, I like as stiff a wrist wrap as I can get, because again, stiff and long, the more wraps you get, the better it's going to hold that wrist joint stable, and the better your lifts are going to be. You don't have to worry about your wrist snapping back on you when you're unracking the bar, or getting down at the bottom and having your wrists peel back, because anytime your joints aren't stacked, you're losing energy, you're losing power on the lift. So you want everything as tight as you can get it with your wrist wraps. That's why I go with really, really stiff ones. And that's all I've got for today. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I promise these videos are going to get better as we go, as I get more comfortable with the camera. Like I said, I'm an old guy, not used to really sitting and talking in front of a camera much. So I'm learning as I go. But you're not going to want to, I'm going to have some really good information for you, like I said before. So hit the subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss any of these. If you've got any friends that you think can use this information, let them know. Give us a follow on Instagram. I put some tips and, I hate to say tips and tricks, but for lack of a better term, tips and tricks on the Instagram page at @HeartOfALion_SC on Instagram. Tell your buddies. You know, I do some form suggestions and variations on lift suggestions on there. Like I said, give tips on different things to do in your training and during your warm-ups that'll kind of help maximize the time that you're spending on your training, make your training a little more efficient. And don't forget to like the video if you like the video. And until next time, we'll see you on the platform.